So we're live.
Yeah.
I'm going to pump this up so that you don't see all my side slides there.
Good evening, everyone. We've just gone live. We'll be formally starting in a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, feel free to say hi to myself and Lance on the chat. Oh, 12 people.
Hopefully they'll come piling in here. A lot of times people come right in at the last minute, you know?
Yeah. Hi, Wally. So can you give a shout and tell me which club you're from and representing? Let's have an idea of which club you guys are coming from. And if you're not from a club in District 91 UK South, which district, please? Oh, District 30, Toastmaster in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Good evening, Max.
Wow.
Warrior Sasami, speaker, South London. Come on, guys, give a shout to your club. This is your chance to broadcast your club to the world. Beckenham Communicators, London Public Speakers in Central Australia. Whoa, we've got someone from Australia, District 69, Queensland. Very good morning, Australia. It's 5 a.m. for you guys, I believe. Oxford Speakers, Oxford Orator, Riverside Communicator, Gaswick Communicator, Clapham Connectors, Experience French, another club, Aspinwall Toastmasters in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Covent Garden Speakers. Hello, Nadia. Oh, Kushi Pasquale, District 95, Berlin, Germany. Guten Abend, Kushi. Amwick Speakers in Southampton. Yeah. Leicester Speaker, District 71. MLP London Bridge, District 91. Wow, it's a very international audience this evening, which is really exciting because that's the whole point of this webinar series, to just get as many people to dial in as possible from all over the world. And that's absolutely fabulous. So, right, the clock is ticking towards 7 in the evening here in London. So, very good evening, everyone. My name is Florian Bay. I'm District 91's Club Growth Director. My mission, my crusade, almost dare I say in some respect, is to help you guys to support your clubs in reaching out to more members, in converting more guests into members and attracting more guests. We've got many initiatives running this year: the open house meeting, new clubs, new club manuals, marketing materials, and also the webinar series. So this is already the third webinar that we're formally running as part of this series. 2 weeks ago, we had original advisor Aletta Rocha, but this evening, I'm really pleased to say that we've got a world champion of public speaking with us. How cool is that? The 2005 world champion of public speaking, Lance Miller. Lance and I met in Vancouver at the International Convention. I had seen some of his stuff before, and I was blown away. I'm like, these guys think just like me in terms of index card, professional flyers, and so on. Let's get him to do a webinar. And very kindly, he's agreed to take some of his time for us. It's a Sunday morning in Los Angeles where he is. He could be going to the beach or riding on his motorcycle because the weather's very nice, not unlike here in London. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the floor over to our webinar presenter this evening, Lance Miller.
Wow, thank you, Florian. Fantastic. Yes, it's a beautiful day here in Southern California. It's about 11 o'clock in the morning. In Fahrenheit, it's about 75 degrees. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm actually, my club, I'm at the center that my club meets. I'm at a little restaurant cafe, so it may get a little busy as we talk here on that. I'm going to take about maybe 2 or 3 hours of material and try to cram it into about 40 minutes with you here, and then open it up for a little Q&A at the end. But let me just give you a little history with where I'm coming from. I joined Toastmasters in 1992, and my club had about 35 members in it at that point. And about August of 93, we had about 12 people coming to the meeting. And one meeting, we had 5 of us that showed up. And we didn't have a meeting. We had something called coffee. And we were sitting around trying to figure out what we're going to do with the club. Are we going to keep it? Are we going to close it? Whatever. And there's a lot of backstory to this, but we decided. One of the guys in the meeting said, Toastmasters has this distinguished club program, which was the one we had before the current one. And they said they rank you internationally. They go, if we're going to do this, let's be a top 10 club in Toastmasters. Let's either win doing Toastmasters or let's go do something else and win doing it. And I'll paraphrase this. We didn't want to run a hospice Toastmasters club. That's where you keep the club members comfortable until the club dies. And so it took us 5 years. And we built our club from 12 active members to 95 members, and we were the number 4 club in Toastmasters International in 1999. And our club, Renaissance Speakers here in Hollywood, has been one of the top clubs in Toastmasters for the last 18, 20 years. Last year, we were number 6 in the world for educational achievement. And I loved that old DCP program. I'll tell you right up front, I do not pull my punches. I'm not politically correct. I'm going to call shots as I see them. I don't like the current Distinguished Club program because we don't reward excellence with it. We reward mediocrity. But that being said, I don't think there's any reason that every club's not President's Distinguished, because it's a very low bar. It does make a strong 20-member club if your President's Distinguished. And that. So what I'm going to go over with you today are the things I've found to be the critical points in a club where I see most Toastmaster clubs struggle, where concepts and ideas, which is where everything starts. What's your mindset with your club when you come into it? And, I start off with looking at any problem or any situation. The first thing we have to do is get a correct diagnosis on it. 4 years ago, I went to the hospital with severe right side pain, and they took my appendix out. That wasn't the problem. I don't know about you, but I don't like doctors yanking organs out of my body just on a whim. I had a spastic muscle, and had I had about a week of painkillers, I would have been fine. But instead, I had thousands of dollars in medical costs and 6 weeks of recovery, and I'm missing my appendix, which I missed terribly. Anyway, it was the wrong diagnosis. So what I've tried to do in Toastmasters is really look at what is the correct diagnosis for building a successful club. And there's some mindset issues I want to start up front that we had in our club. And as I've traveled the world to over 60 districts and helped Toastmasters in all those districts build their clubs and get more out of the Toastmasters program, I've found the same to be true across the world. The first thing, if I was looking at Toastmasters and saying, what's the main problem we have, I would say as an organization, we're primarily the blind leading the blind. And why I say that is we don't have professional instructors that teach us how to be Toastmasters. We all get together in a room and we have a manual, and we have to pick up the manual and figure it out. Now, when I was 19 years old, I got my pilot's license, and believe it or not, I had a certified flight instructor that knew how to fly the airplane. I actually found that very beneficial in learning how to fly, that I had someone that knew how to fly to teach me. If we had a Toastmasters flight school, the way it would work is we take 2 people that don't know how to fly an airplane. We would put them in an airplane and give them a manual, and then say they'd open it up and they'd say, well, the first project's the takeoff. You do it, and I'll evaluate you. Okay? I don't think we'd have a very successful flight school. I really compare Toastmasters more to an exercise class. And in this slide, you see it's a martial arts class, but the instructor's in black, the kids are in white. The instructor knows how to teach the program. He knows what the correct way to do something is. Whereas in Toastmasters, if it was an exercise program, just to drive this point home, we take 2 people or take a group of people that are out of shape and overweight, put them in a room, give them a manual, and they'd say, well, the first project's the push-up. Okay, get down on your hands and knees. Good. Okay, now can you go down? Okay, good. Now can you come back up? It's like, well, the manual says you're supposed to come back up. Can you come back up? Okay, well, in our club, you'll just go down because that's the easy way. We don't realize all the strength comes from coming back up. And we wind up changing the program to a certain degree because we don't necessarily know the correct way to do that. Now, I used to be really critical of this point, but this point of not having professional instructors that are certified and are going to teach us how to be great Toastmasters is actually a major point that changed my life. Now, there's something called an SEP in a Toastmasters club. And when I joined Toastmasters, I was looking for the members of the club to teach me how to be a better speaker. So I came in and I assumed the members that were ahead of me were better than I was, and I was going to learn from them. And the members ahead of me looked at the members ahead of them and thought those people knew what they were doing, and so they were going to learn from them. And when there was a problem in the club, we'd all stand around and look at each other and go, somebody ought to do something about that. And this is what it came into. It came to the problems were somebody else's problems. None of us sat there and said, I'm going to solve the problem. We all said somebody should solve that problem. But really what it came down to is that we weren't owning our club. Nobody was really owning the club. And this is the number one reason that I see clubs fail, is that nobody owns the club, and everybody's looking around thinking somebody should fix it, but nobody picks up the ball and says, I'm going to make sure it gets fixed. What happened with my club, we had 5 of us that morning, we had coffee. The 5 of us decided to own the success of the club, and we started building towards being a top 10 club. Today, I have about 18 members in the club that fully own the club, and if there's ever a problem, we're sitting there trying to figure out how to get it solved and move it forward. We're not looking to the district. We're not looking to Toastmasters International, which I'm going to get into in a second. We are solving our own problems. And really, my viewpoint on Toastmasters is simply this. If you can't do it in Toastmasters, you can't do it in life, because it's a lot easier. Toastmasters is an easier environment than life. And what I was wanting to do is develop my communication and leadership skills to have an impact out in the world. I wasn't worried. I wasn't trying to be a great Toastmaster. I wanted to use this like I go to the gym so that I can go run races in life, so I'm fit to live life. I'm using Toastmasters to develop my communication and leadership skills to strengthen them, so when I get thrown into business situations and the community groups that I work with and the nonprofit groups I work with, I'm able to function in those organizations because I've developed those communication and leadership skills. So in this seminar, I'm going to talk about 3 reasons that clubs fail. And the first reason is that nobody owns the club. So the first step you want to do if you want to turn your club around is you go, we're going to take full ownership of the club, and we are going to see that this club succeeds. Clubs do not fail on their own. They're allowed to fail because nobody in the club takes responsibility for the success. It's not like there's, we just can't seem to turn it around. No, they're allowed to fail. Now, there's a reason for this, too. I have a tendency to get really granular and go, well, what's going on? What's going on in the mind of a new person when they come in the club? Now, when we were kids, we had what was called a great deal of free will. And I would say, remember when Saturdays lasted all day? You get up in the morning and it was like, it was Saturday. It was fantastic. Now, we're a bunch of old curmudgeon adults and we blink and it's Monday morning. So the weekend just flies by like that. But when we were kids, we could get a shoebox or we'd get a stick and it was the coolest thing in the world. Our creativity was fully engaged in life. But what happens is as we go through life, we have our parents, when we're little kids, we have our parents telling us what to do. And if you're like me, you learn very easily, very early in life, that life was a lot more enjoyable if I did what mom and dad said versus not doing what they said. It was a lot less painful to do what mom and dad said. So I learned to look at mom and dad and figure out, would they be happy with what I was going to say or with what I was going to do? And then that's what I would do. And at that moment, mom and dad become the author of my thoughts and my actions. Then I went to school and I'm told what seat to sit in and what I'm supposed to study and what I'm supposed to spit back out on the test. And I learned life is a lot more enjoyable if I do what I'm told by my teachers. I get to go through the classes. Okay? Then I go to work and I'm told where to sit, what to do. Don't rock the boat. And if we like you, we'll promote you. And what happens is we go through life, we become hypnotized by authority. We cut our creativity out. We stop imbuing that same energy, that same free will into life that we had when we were kids. And we are waiting for someone else, some higher authority to tell us it's okay to succeed. Now, here's the point in Toastmasters. If you come to Toastmasters and sit in the seat at the right time and wait for someone else to make your club successful, your club will die because there is no higher authority in Toastmasters than you, the club member. Your club lives and dies based on the cumulative leadership and the cumulative energy that your membership puts into your club. That is the beauty of the program. What we do is we reignite the creativity in the individual, both in speaking and the creativity and problem solving and human dynamics. We put them in an environment where they have to learn how to lead and learn how to put that energy into their club themselves. And to do that, we have to break this idea that somebody else is going to make it happen. And that's what we broke in my club. We didn't look to the district leadership to help us. We didn't look to Toastmasters International to help us. We said, we're going to build this club. And that's what we did. We started putting things together, trying things, getting our membership involved. I'm going to walk through a lot of the things that we did here. It really, oh shoot, I always hate it when this happens. It really comes down to the meaning of life is you have, okay, now when I do this in live seminars, it works better than in a webinar, okay? This is an intentional slide. It says the meaning of life is that you have, and then you don't know what it says, right? Here's what it is. You have to figure it out for yourself.
See the slides.
What's that?
We cannot see any slides apart from the title slides. The presentation doesn't seem to be running.
Okay, I'll tell you what then. I'm just going to talk, okay?
It's up to you, whatever you want, whatever you prefer.
I don't know how to get the slide going. That's the thing. So,
well, it's on PowerPoint, so the slideshow doesn't appear to be on.
Okay. Let's see what we have here.
Oh, well, that's fine. Let's just do it that way instead. Okay,
great. So, let me see what I can do here. Okay, so that's fine. The main thing we're looking at is we reignite the ability to figure things out for ourselves. And can you still see me on the screen, Florian?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So
what we're doing is
okay, good. What we're doing is we're reigniting our ability to figure things out for ourselves. And that's really where all of life starts. And that's the beauty of the Toastmasters program, is that we start coming up with solutions. We start realizing that we have solutions, and we start trying it in Toastmasters. And the beauty of Toastmasters, which I'm going to get into, is it's a great place to mess up. It's a great place to screw up and fail because nobody's going to fire you. Work is not a great place to do that. Okay? So when I look at this relationship between the club and Toastmasters International, I really compare Toastmasters International. We have a company in the U.S. called Home Depot, which is a huge, lumber supply building company. And you can go to Home Depot and you can get whatever you need to repair your house or build your house, to build anything you want. They have it there. But the point is, Home Depot is not going to come build your house for you. You can go get the supplies there, but they're not going to swing the hammer and build your house. And that's the same thing I look at with Toastmasters International. They provide us with the tools to build our club. You get all the manuals, you get the program that we have in Toastmasters International, but they're not going to come build the club. Toastmasters, it's up to us to take those tools they give us and build the club. And there's nothing stopping us from building the largest, most productive club we want. And it's not something that's necessarily easy to do. It's not something that, it's not terribly difficult, but it's not something that is, that just happens on its own. To the degree we put energy and effort into our club, is to the degree that that club's going to expand. Now, I liken Toastmasters to a game, and I'm a guy, so I like sports, and we play a game, and every game has a beginning and an end to it. And when I first got into Toastmasters, I didn't really, I just was coming to the weekly meetings. I didn't look at it as a game. And I actually think Toastmasters would be better if we really approached the whole club activity like a game, and each Toastmasters club was a team, and you were seeing how many points you put it on the board, and then you got to win your division, you got to win your district, you got to win the international championship, depending on how many points you put on the board. Because that's one of the things that built my club. But the beginning of the Toastmasters game is July 1st. And the ending of the Toastmasters game is June 30th. And the way you play the game is you get members in the club, you get people to come in the club, and then you get them trained on their competent communicator, their advanced communicator, their competent leader, their advanced leader, their DTM. You get them trained on the program. And so really the simplicity of a Toastmasters club is members in, members trained. And for me, the best way to run a distinguished club program is that you want every member in your club to complete some sort of a speaking or leadership level every year. You don't want one member to do 5 It's okay if they do 5 as long as everybody else is doing 1 also. But the way you keep clubs winning is by keeping people doing the program. And when we get into this, I'm going to look at the speaking frequency. Here's what turned my club around. We wanted to be a top 10 club in the world, so we went to every member and we said, we want you to complete a speaking level every year. And then we started scheduling people to speak frequently so that they could get their 10 speeches done in the year, as well as the leadership aspect we were working at as well, because we got points for every one of those. Now, initially, we were doing this for the points. But what happened was when we got our members to speak frequently, they started keeping the gain from every speech. And I started to see how the Toastmasters program worked. Now, earlier, I was describing Toastmasters as an exercise program. Now, I'm sure we've all decided, January 1st comes around, we go, I got to get in shape. So we go to the gym, and we haven't exercised in 3 years or 10 or however many it may be. We go to the gym, and we come back that next day, and we are so sore because we haven't been exercising. And if our attitude is, I'm so sore, I'm not going to the gym for 6 months, when we go to the gym in 6 months, we're going to be sore again because we lost all the gain we got from going to the gym that one day. And what we know is if we're going to go to the gym and exercise, we're going to be sore for 2 or 3 weeks. We need to go 3 times a week. We're going to be sore for 2 or 3 weeks, and then we're going to get through our stiffness, and we're going to start to feel our muscles build. We're going to start feeling stronger. The same thing happens in Toastmasters. When we start speaking, we start running meetings, we start doing these leadership tasks. At first, we're nervous instead of being sore. What happened in my club, when I got the members to speak frequently, which is every 4 to 5 weeks, they started keeping the gain from every speech they got, and their competency improved, their confidence improved, their self-esteem went up. They started getting what I call the twinkle in the eye, which is just a higher level of self-worth. And when that happened, I saw the program change lives. And that's what really built our club. And this gets up to the number 2 reason that clubs fail. And that is that nobody does the program. Toastmasters internationally, over 85% of the people in Toastmasters do not complete any speaking or leadership level in any one year. So if you sent your kids to a school that 85% of the kids didn't graduate in any one year, let's just make it easy. Is that a good school or a bad school? I think we would all agree that it hedges on the bad side. So what turned my club around was getting people to do the program. Now I'm going to compare this to, I think Weight Watchers is pretty much worldwide, but we have a program called Weight Watchers, which is you lose weight. And I had a guy that wanted to lose 50 pounds, a friend of mine wanted to lose 50 pounds about 3 years ago. He went to Weight Watchers. He didn't lose any weight. And I saw him about 3 months ago, and he'd lost his 50 pounds. And I said, what'd you do? He goes, I went to Weight Watchers. I said, I thought that didn't work. He goes, no, this time I did the program. Now, what he did before, he just went to the meetings, he weighed in, and went out and ate whatever he wanted. He never did the Weight Watchers program. When he did the program, it worked. The same thing's true in Toastmasters. If you do the program, which is to get your people to do these competent communicators, advanced communicators, you're working them through the program, and they're doing those speeches in short order, where you're getting people to complete about a speaking or leadership level every year, their lives change because they're getting the benefit from the program. Okay, now I'm DTM. I've got 2 advanced communicator golds. I've got 28 CCs. I'm working on my 3rd advanced communicator gold. And the only reason I don't have 3 or 4 DTMs is I'm on the road so much I can't be a district officer. But I've formed like 15 or 18 Toastmasters clubs on that. I do this program every year. As a matter of fact, last year I did 3. I did an AC, a CC, and a competent leader. This year I've already got 2 CCs done and a competent leader completed almost at this point. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, I want to set an example as a world champion that I use the program. 2, I want to support my club. And 3, I get benefit from it. I get benefit from each one of those. So let's walk through some speaking frequency math here. I get a lot of clubs that go, I know we've got somebody on from Australia. A lot of the clubs in Australia meet every 2 weeks. There's a lot of clubs that meet at noon. And let's just say that, they have a hard time getting all of their speakers through the manual because they have like a 1-hour meeting. So we're going to do some math here. Let's just say you have 4 speakers per meeting and you meet once a week. So you meet 50 times a year. in your Toastmasters year. Now, 4 times 50 is 200 speaking slots in your Toastmasters year. And there's 10 speeches per Toastmasters speaking level. So that means that at 100% efficiency, you could get 20 completions. The problem is, if we have 40 people in the club, that would mean 20 got to speak and 20 didn't get to speak. And so we don't typically operate at 100% efficiency. So here's my recommendation is, and this is what we did in my club. We didn't cap the educational production or the educational achievement of the club to the meeting. We adjusted the delivery to the number of members we had. Now, I'm going to go through some numbers. Let's say you have a 1-hour lunch meeting and you have 2 speakers each meeting, and you have 50 meetings a year. That's 100 speeches that you can give. And that means that you can get 10 people through all 10 speeches in their manuals, but you have 25 people in the meeting. That means that 15 people wouldn't get anything done. So what my recommendation is, have some extra meetings outside of that 1-hour lunchtime. Go to a bar on Thursday night and, drink beer and throw peanuts on the floor or something and give 8 speeches, or you have a party on Saturday afternoon at somebody's house and you create another opportunity to have 6 or 8 speakers speak once a month. And that will really congeal your club. It'll create a stronger club environment. But what we did in my club is we expanded our speaking delivery to the number of people in the club that had to get through those speeches each year, so that we kept our members winning. Now, as I said, last year we were the number 6 most productive club on educational achievement in Toastmasters. We did 47 educational completions, and we had several of us that did triple crowns. My club, we're not at 95 members anymore. We're usually we're usually in the 50 and 60 range. We're at a low right now of about 38 members. We're building back up this year. But last year was a rebuilding year for us, but we had 11 of us that did triple crowns to keep our educational level up. And what we did, we expanded our speaking delivery. Okay, so it's a simple thing. Nobody in Toastmasters told us to do that. We figured out, if we want to be a top club, this is what we need to do. And what I really realized was that this is about keeping people winning with Toastmasters. And if you have somebody that hasn't spoken in a while, they're not going to be winning with Toastmasters. They're going to be sitting there and not getting the benefit of the program. So what we want to do is keep our members winning on that. A couple other points. A lot of times you'll see some people in Toastmasters that are way more concerned about the rules than the results. And I run into this when I've gone out and tried to expand clubs, and they say, well, I can't put a sign out because this is one of the things that came up, because Toastmasters International told me it violated the registration thing. I go, well, put a sign out. There's no Toastmasters police that are going to come arrest you, but don't violate you can write on the board Toastmasters, get it cleared eventually through Toastmasters International what the correct sign is, but don't not put the sign out. When we were doing 2 meetings a week, we had a member of our district come to us and tell us that we couldn't do 2 meetings a week because the rule book said you could occasionally have a second meeting. And for 6 months, I argued with him over the definition of the word occasionally. As I said, 2 meetings a week is occasionally, 2 meetings a day is not occasionally. And he was saying, no, a meeting every 2 months is occasionally. I didn't stop delivering to get the result. And I look at a sports team. You have a sports team, and let's say that they don't score any points all year, but they don't get any penalty flags. And the whole game is just to play by the rules exactly. What's more important, if you see teams that really win, they're getting penalties because they're pushing themselves so hard all the time. They're going to break some rules here and there. I'm not saying intentionally do it. I'm just saying it's more important to get the result, which is your member train, than to follow a rule. When we went to debug my club, there's a really critical point. We called all of our members up and asked them, what did you like about coming to the meeting? We had 35 people on the roster. We had 12 coming to the meeting, so we had 23 people that weren't showing up each week. What they told us, the number 1 reason they like to come to the meeting is they like to have fun. The number 2 reason they like to come to the meeting is they like to see their friends. And the number 3 reason they wanted to come to the meeting was the personal improvement of the Toastmasters program. We realized then why our club was failing. We'd had 2 presidents in a row who had stopped being fun and friendly. And they got really serious about Toastmasters. One of the guys made speech evaluation pass fail. We didn't know it because we never read the manual. So he said, nobody's going to be a competent communicator unless you're absolutely competent. And that wasn't the Toastmasters program. He didn't care if you did your icebreaker 12 times. You're going to do it until you did it right. And we had people dropping out of the club because it was a serious, negatively reinforced meeting. And people stopped coming to the club because it wasn't fun. So we have senior policy in my club that we keep a fun, friendly environment. And, with that, I'm going to say the main thing is you've got to have an environment where it's totally safe to fail. It's totally safe to make mistakes. And that not only means the speaker, that means the speech evaluator, that means the table topics master, that means the timer, that means the Toastmaster, that means the president. It's okay to make mistakes. This is a learning environment. What we don't want to see is we don't want to see the person not caring and just making the same mistake over and over and over again. We want to see you developing, but it's okay to mess it up and there's no consequence for it. And so we really have that attitude in our club where it's okay to stand up and, and your speech didn't go well or you passed out or you gave a bad evaluation, but you want to learn from that. And so it's a very positive learning environment that we created. The next thing I like to talk about is a simple concept. I'll tell you a short story on this. We applied Colonel Saunders' secret recipe from the Kentucky Fried Chicken to my club. I grew up in Indiana, which is just a short distance from Louisville, Kentucky, where the headquarters for Kentucky Fried Chicken. And back in the 70s, I'm going to date myself here, when I was a kid, my dad had a couple of restaurants. And not only was the restaurant, was the chicken different restaurant to restaurant, it was different shift to shift, depending on who was cooking the chicken. And he wanted to get consistent chicken in his restaurant. So he had a friend of his who had a Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise, and he snuck him into Colonel Saunders' chicken cooking school. So at the age of 14, I'm going to be one of the few kids in school that knows the secret recipe. So my dad comes home after 3 days of learning how to cook chicken, and I'm going, what are the special herbs and spices? What's the secret recipe? And he goes, Colonel Sanders laughs at that. Colonel Sanders says, all I do is I do the ordinary, but I do it extraordinarily well. And he figured out how to cook chicken, how many pounds of chicken, how hot the fat had to be, what the pressure and time had to be, and they cooked it the same way every time. Once he had it perfected, he cooked it the same way. But that's what we started to do in my club, is we started to take the ordinary actions and find out how to do them extraordinarily well. And to start with, we stopped having a meeting and started having an event. Because a meeting is sort of serious, and it's like, okay, we're going to meet. It's a 4-letter word. Our Toastmasters meetings were themed. They'd have music or somebody bringing balloons and chocolate. They were always some sort of a celebration. The Toastmaster always created a special event for the members, and that was one of the things that started to lift us up. We start, run, and end the events on time. Good clubs start, run, and end on time. Bad clubs don't. Because in order to start your club on time, you have to have everything lined up for the week. You have to be there early, which is one of the things. We get there early, the room's set up. When our Toastmasters, our members come in the room, it's set up, it's ready to go. It's not like we're getting in and everybody's at the last minute scrambling, trying to get the room put together. There's a professional feeling to it. We have a beautiful venue, which I think is very important, to have a good venue with room to grow. I've seen Toastmasters meetings that it was so tight, there was no room for guests to come, and no guests came. And you needed a bigger room. We call that the goldfish syndrome, goldfish bowl syndrome. A goldfish won't grow any bigger than the bowl it's in. So if you want a bigger club, get a bigger room. It needs to be a room that's safe for people to mess up in. So you don't want to have it an open dining room in a restaurant, because people may be listening to somebody's speech and they're not in the Toastmasters Club. You want it to be a place that somebody can get up and make mistakes. It's not going to be a big problem. The other thing is we wanted to create a professional environment. We have a weekend club. We had people showing up with sweats and sandals and, a Starbucks coffee, a little sleep in the eye. We meet from 9 to noon, in the morning. And it really had a lackadaisical feel to it. So what we did, we just said, look, no jeans or T-shirts. You have to dress better than that. And that changed the whole mood of the club. Those are some of the things we did in the club, on the little extraordinary things. But there's no magic dust you can throw in your club. You have to take ownership of it. And, it may be getting the temperature set right, the way the chairs are put together. You figure out how to run that meeting so that you really make it an extraordinary experience. I want to talk a little bit about membership because that's what we're also looking at here. In my experience, 1/3 of your membership is dedicated. If you have, let's say 20 members in a club, you're going to have 6 or 7 members that are hardcore dedicated members. You're going to have 1/3 of your membership that's interested in the club, but they're not hardcore dedicated, but they're interested in it. And you're going to have 1/3 of your membership that's falling off and needs to be replaced. Toastmasters internationally, we have about 350,000 members. We roll over about 140,000 a year internationally. Now, all that happens at the club level. I've been in this game for 25 years. Even when we had 95 members in my club, we were rolling over 30 members a year. Okay, so you're going to lose 1/3 of your membership every year. If you're not recruiting on a regular basis and building membership, in 2 years, you're going to be down to nothing in your club. So the recruitment and the membership building is a very, very critical part of Toastmasters. And this gets into the third reason why Toastmasters fails. First reason, if you recall, is nobody owns the club. So we allow problems to exist, nobody solves them. The second reason is we're not doing the program. We don't do the program, members don't win, they lose interest. The third reason is that we don't promote the club. And I didn't say we don't promote the club effectively. Most clubs don't even promote themselves. They just sort of hope people are going to walk in. So I've created a program with 6 ways that you can drive guests into your meeting. And I'm going to walk through them. I have a CD on this. I spend about an hour and 20 minutes going over all these and how to do it. But I'm just going to hit the high points here. The first thing is you got to put a sign out. Have a website. So if somebody's looking for you, put something up on Meetup or on that, so that people that are looking for a place to go develop their speaking can find you. I know a lot of Toastmasters clubs that meet and they don't even put a sign out front that says Toastmasters meeting inside. Somebody may be walking down the street and they would just come in. They meet in a building and they could stick something in the elevator that just says Toastmasters club meeting. I opened a club in Manhattan, downtown New York, at the Turkish Cultural Center a couple years ago. And after the initial meeting, we were all sitting around drinking tea and eating cookies, and they were on the 20th floor of a 44-story skyscraper. And they were saying, we just don't know where to get any other members. And I'm like, looking up, I'm going, my gosh, you know how many thousands of people work in this building? If you just stick a note in the elevator on Wednesday night, an hour before your meeting, you'd probably get 15 or 20 guests just as people exit the building. You take a little flyer around and pass it to every office in the building, you'd probably get people coming in. But you have to let people know you're there. The next thing is we have cards and flyers, like 4x6 cards that we pass out. And what I recommend, every Toastmasters club services the businesses or the community around where that club meets. And I've done, in my business life, analysis. I've done situations where we've opened new stores, and you do a whole economic study in a community to see where the store can go. Is there enough economic base to support the viability of that store? Toastmasters is the same way. So if you have a Toastmasters club, target-rich environment is people within like 10 minutes around that club that can come visit it. But you have to let them know you're meeting there. So what I recommend is that we get some cards printed up, not business cards. I think those are too small, that talk about, we have a fun Toastmasters club here, and you team up, and once a month you go out and you talk to the businesses in your area, and just talk to the manager and say, we've got a Toastmasters club meeting over here. Can you pass these out to your employees? You know, and let's just say, like actually right over here from my club, there's a supermarket. Now, when I do my seminars, I ask who in the supermarket needs Toastmasters skills. The answer I'm looking for is the stock boy, the kid that's putting the cans on the shelf. And why does he need Toastmasters skills? Because he doesn't want to be a stock boy the rest of his life. And if we give him Toastmasters skills, he may not be able to go to university or something, but by golly, he can get control of his life, because if he can learn how to speak, he learns how to lead, he's going to be on a completely different course in life. And I think we could boom Toastmasters just going and hiring the people that are working at McDonald's. You know, they're working at the car wash, they're working at the supermarkets. They are looking for a way to improve their lives. And the Toastmasters program is very inexpensive. We could bring those people in and change their lives completely. That's why I say to me, there's no reason we don't have 20 or 30, 40 people in every Toastmasters club. So the other thing is the cards are great to hand out to friends and coworkers to invite them to the club. So the first thing is hang out a sign, let people know you're meeting. Second thing is have something to promote to people around your business, pass it out on a regular basis. The third thing is special meetings. Instead of inviting people to a Toastmasters meeting, invite them to the Toastmasters meeting. Every other month, 6 times a year, I recommend having a special meeting, and you can show this is like a really important meeting and you don't want the person to miss it. Maybe you have the winner of the International Speech Contest coming to your club and he's going to talk, and you can promote that. And we call this sell the sizzle. Don't sell the steak, sell the sizzle. Okay, so you got this special person coming, or you show the video of the top 3 speakers from the World Championship. I've got about 15 things in my CD that you can go through and have a special meeting. But the point is, you put on a special meeting and you invite people to the meeting you don't want them to miss, so it puts an urgency for them to come visit you. Just do 6 of those every other month in your club throughout the year, and you start to build guests coming. On the other months that you're not having the special meeting inside the club, have a meeting outside, have a party outside the club. You can do holiday parties. We know we've got Christmas time coming up, New Year's, whatever. You can do a party like that, or you can simply do a wine and cheese party. Now, have a wine and cheese party at somebody's house, and people don't know what Toastmasters is, but by golly, they know what wine and cheese is. And you come over, you get them a little drunk, and get them to sign the membership form. Not really. But what you do is you get them to come over and talk to them, and they sit around, and they get to meet everybody in your club, and it's a fun environment. And then you say, we'd like for you to come visit the club. Now they're sort of obligated because they came and ate your cheese and drank your wine. From the speaking side, you can learn to speak after drinking. It's a very important skill to learn. But very simply, if every other month you did a special meeting inside the club, and on the other months you did a special meeting outside the club and invited people to a wine and cheese, I don't see there's any reason that you wouldn't get 1 member a month out of those actions. The last 2 things, there's something called Speechcraft, which are the first 6 speeches in the Competent Communicator Manual. We don't promote Speechcraft. We don't reward Speechcraft in Toastmasters anymore, which is a shame. If I was running the program, I would require every club to do 2 community service programs a year, either a Speechcraft or youth leadership out in the community, and deliver Toastmasters out in the community. But you can go to a local chamber of commerce, you can go to Parks and Recreation, you can go to, we have the Salvation Army, which deals with people that need to get back on their feet. You can go deliver these things out in the community. And my club used to deliver 3 Speechcrafts a year. And every time we would deliver it, we'd get 2 or 3 members out of each Speechcraft joining the club. So Speechcraft is a great tool. The last one is going out and speaking at community groups. Rotary, I'm in Rotary. Rotary's worldwide. There's about 33,000 Rotary clubs in the world. It's in every country Toastmasters is. They need a program every single week. You can go online, find the Rotary clubs in your district, say we want to come talk about how to deliver a speech, or impromptu speaking, or lectern etiquette, or whatever you want to talk about, and see if they would want to put you on the program. Every time I speak at one of these community groups, and I'm usually not speaking about Toastmasters, but I'm introduced as a world champion, I have people coming to me wanting to know how to get involved in Toastmasters. The Chamber of Commerce is a great place to go do lunch and learns, or do a talk. Let them know you're available if you have some good speakers. Kiwanis, Lions Club, you may, in whatever countries you're in, you may have your own localized community service groups that need speakers on a regular basis. If we go out and speak, tell them what we do, people need Toastmaster skills. They're looking for Toastmaster skills. So just to reiterate that very quickly, hang up a sign, have a website, social media, let people know you're there. Create some sort of a promotional card to pass out on a regular basis. Pass it out around your club meeting, as well as give the members to give to their friends and associates. Every other month, have a special meeting inside the club. Every other month, have a special party outside the club. Schedule 2 Speechcrafts a year so people can come. If they just want to do a 6-week public speaking course, they don't want to join a club, but after that they realize they're winning with it. They want to join the club. And have a couple of your members go out and speak in the community. If you do 3 of those things, not all 6, just do 3 of them, I will almost guarantee you that you'll get a member a month. And those are just some ideas. That's not the only way to promote Toastmasters. That's 6 ways you can promote Toastmasters. So again, the 3 reasons clubs fail, let's look at it. Nobody owns a club. They don't solve the problems. They allow the problems to exist. Second reason is they don't do the program. People are sitting in that Toastmasters club. They're not moving rapidly through their manual, through their education program. Therefore, they're not winning like they should. Third reason is they don't promote the club. You do those 3 things, you're going to have a successful club. Now, a couple things on my website, which is lancemillerspeaks.com. I have free tips cards you can download. I have tips cards on speaking. I have tips cards on speech evaluation. I have tips cards on how to build a championship club. Those are free downloads. You can just go on, put them in. They email right down to you. A lot of the stuff I went over, and a lot of other things that are on those cards that I haven't gone over with you are available. So I make those free to Toastmasters. I have an email I send out once a week with some sort of speaking or leadership or life tip. You can sign up for the email address if you want. And I have product on my page. I have a whole program called a Championship Club program on how to build your club, how to promote the club, how to put speech evaluation in it, the leadership roles, as well as the speaking side. And I've got a club special on the website if you want to see that. But at this point, anyway, I try to give Toastmasters as many resources as I can for what they're working on. So at this point, what I'd like to do is open it up, see if we have any questions or anything like that from the audience or from the listeners, and see where we are. We've got about 15 minutes left in the hour here.
If you want to ask any question, please type your question in the chat box and I will process the questions as they come. So please fire away. Don't be shy. You can ask anything.
Is there anything, Florian, that you've come across that you want to discuss while we're maybe letting people type?
But there's a lot of good stuff in what you've mentioned, Lance, there. And to me, the thing that really strikes me is a lot of it is actually quite simple stuff. It's producing flyers, being on website, having signs, being on Google Maps, which is something I strongly advocate to clubs in District 91. Nothing is really complicated, but it's quite striking how some of the clubs just don't do these basic things. We've got a first question from Deborah Wallace. Hi, Deborah. Would it be worth taking Toastmaster Open Days in colleges for students?
Well, I think that the Toastmasters program is a great program for students. The problem is that they're usually at the university 9 months out of the year, and getting the commitment out of them year after year is the problem. But, one of the key skill sets you need to get a job and be successful in work is your communication skills and your ability to work with people, to run a meeting, to stand up and be heard. And most kids go through university and they sit in the class and listen the whole time, and they don't have even the interview skills. So I think it would be great for the kids. My thing is, try it and see what type of a response you get. But I think you're also going to have I don't want to call it an adult base because it's not really right. But you have to have a base outside of the student base because of the transient nature of students. And a lot of the university clubs I've worked with, they really struggle over the summers because all the kids go home for the summer. But I think it's a great program. I think it should be I think there should be a whole Toastmasters program designed for on-campus. It's an on-campus extracurricular activity that kids do in college.
That's a very good point. We've got one university club in District 91, and they are indeed struggling with members because it's mostly students, busy students. The churn rate is very high, and we're trying to get them back up and running, but the lack of diversity membership is the challenge. So we've got a great question from Kushi Pasquale from Berlin. At what point should we move from 2 meetings a month to potentially weekly meetings? And how many members?
Well, I think that my personal feeling is 2 meetings a month is not a membership base. I think it's like exercising. And if you go to the gym more often, you're stronger, right? And so I think you should be a meeting a week regardless on that. But that's going to depend on how long your meeting is, and it's going to depending on how fast you got to look at the math and go, how many speakers do we need? How many members do we need? How many speaking slots do we need to move our membership through this program on a regular basis, on a fast basis, so the members are winning, and you adjust your delivery to that membership to keep them moving. And it's not hard math, but Florian, as you're saying, these things are pretty simple once you sort of understand the basis of it. And you just got to go, hey, you know what? Our members are only speaking every 8 weeks. We need to go to extra meetings at this point, and so we can keep them speaking every 4 to 5 weeks. That's the number I'd be looking at.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the biggest argument in favor of weekly club is that if someone misses a meeting in a fortnightly club, it's a month in between meetings. Whereas if it's a weekly club, it's only 2 weeks and they can just get back up and running really quickly. To me, that's a very strong argument in favor of weekly clubs. But weekly clubs do provide challenges from the leadership side. There needs to be VPs doubled up. There are many ways. There are many ways to go around these challenges. So another question from Wally Ososami: how do you get more people to take ownership of the club?
The secret question, the secret sauce. It's interesting. People take ownership of the club to the degree they're asked to contribute to it. And so the secret, I'm actually working with I'm in one of the top Rotary clubs in the world. It's the 5th club formed in Rotary after 33,000 clubs. And we're trying to turn the club around right now. And I said, look, the way you make clubs work is getting people to contribute to the club. Now, you don't walk up to a member and say, I need you to own the club. What you do is, could you help with this? Could you take a little responsibility here? And you get the person to contribute to the success of the club, and their self-esteem comes up when they do that. Excuse me. Their self-esteem comes up when they do that, and they start to win. And then the essence of my world champion speech is you validate them, you thank them, you tell them what a great job they did, that they made such a difference, and they go, "Wow, I did," and their self-esteem comes up. Because see, it's a mean, brutal world out there, and we need to have in Toastmasters a loving, kind world that we tell people how great they are. And in truth though, we validate the real good things about people. And what happens is they'll gravitate towards that validation every time and start to take more and more ownership with it and on it. But the way you do it is you get them to come in and say, hey, as an example, you have your meeting. You're going to be the all counter. Make sure could you be there 5 minutes early so we just make sure we get the meeting started on time? And you talk to everybody individually and say, could you be there? You're the timer. I want to make sure you're there 5 minutes early so we have everything ready to go. And then they show up 5 minutes early and they go, oh, that is so great. You're here. Here's your information. And you just start to really tell them how much they're contributing and how much you appreciate it. And what happens is they step right into that when you do it. I learned to manage in business this way because that's how I built the club. I didn't build the club by beating people up. I built them by building people up. And I totally turned around how I work in business is I constantly work to make sure the people I'm working with are winning at what they're doing. And I'm there to help them. I'm there to keep them, really expanding. Good question, though. Good question.
Very good question indeed. So a question from Danny Banks. We are planning an open house meeting in January. Any tips and advice?
Well, first of all, I'd promote it heavily. I'd make sure that here's the simplicity on building your club. There's 2 things before you get membership. One is a dynamic club experience, and the second one is winning members. Now, the reason I say that is that if you went to a new restaurant and the food is bad, the dishes were dirty, and the service was poor, you're not going to go back to that restaurant. So if you're going to have an open house, make sure that meeting is snap and pop. Make sure that the members are energetic. Make sure that the speakers that speak are good speakers. Even if they're new, maybe they're nervous. You don't want to be so good that you scare people away, but you want people. You don't want to have people stand up and they're the president of the club. Every other word is an or an ah, and they take 10 minutes to say something they should have said in 3 minutes. You have to create an environment people want to join. So if you're having an open house, make sure you run that with a lot of enthusiasm and that there's a high energy in the club, and you create an environment that people would want to join and want to come in. The other thing is, as people come in and come to the open house, follow up with them, talk to them, tell them you're interested. You'd be a great contribution to the club. We'd love to have a person like you in our club. Build them up as what, how excited you would be to have them as a member.
Yeah, that's a very good point too. I mean, District 791 has got an open house meeting initiative, and I've just sent out a link to the instruction in the chat. I understand, Danny, that you're from 71, but feel free to have a look anyway. I'll talk about that at the conclusion of the webinar. So next question from Nadia. How do you deal with members that have been in the club for years and forgot how to have fun and create a negative atmosphere to the rest of the members?
Well, in America, we shoot them. Okay, you don't have to laugh at that, okay? Here's what you do. You recruit around them, okay? You recruit around them. There are people that get sort of stuck in their ways and everything, and number one thing is validate them. I got to tell you, just validate how great they are, validate the good things they do, tell them, how much you appreciate what they're doing, get them to contribute. Those are the fundamentals. But still, sometimes you've got some old, crudgety members that don't want to do that. You recruit around them, you bring in some new blood that does appreciate it. You don't kick those people out, but you just weight your club with new members that actually do embody that. That's the simplicity of it. We have a saying in America that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And that's like a lot of these people. You can bring them to they're in the Toastmasters club, but you can't make them have fun. Okay, let them come to the club, and try to get them to do a speaking level a year. Try to get them to make sure they're active, they're contributing to the meetings. They will come up in their morale to the degree that you do that. But I wouldn't try to revive the dead on that. I would just bring in new members that do have that enthusiasm.
Okay, next question from Beauty Zindi. How do you encourage members to look beyond improving speaking skills in a world where people feel so busy they have no time to have fun?
Well, part of it, good question. Part of it is your club culture. What expectations do you set when they join the club, and what does your club promote? If your club is just promoting speaking, then that's a dead end for your club, because you need all the leadership aspects of your club in order to have the speaking component. You can't have people just show up to speak and not. So the club culture should be, this is a complete program of leadership, of which speech component, of which speech evaluation is component, of which meeting management is a component, of which planning coordination is a component. And I tie it to their success outside of Toastmasters. And now, if you want to be a manager, you have to be able to do all these other leadership aspects. You have to be able to hold meetings. You have to be able to get people engaged. You have to be able to give people good speech evaluations. And all these things round you out as an individual so you can be more successful in your goals and purposes in life. So a lot of times I'll see you doing in your life, what types of things you want to engage in. But you have to create that environment in that club where they're not only winning as speakers, but they're winning as a timer, and they're winning as a table topics master, and they're winning as a Toastmaster, and they're winning as a sergeant at arms, a vice president of public relations, that the whole thing is developing them. I have a 2-hour CD where I go through every one of these meeting roles and every one of the officer roles, and I talk about not only how to do it, but how it's developing a specific set of skills for you to succeed outside of Toastmasters. And so, because like I said, to me, this is not about being a great Toastmaster, it's about being great in life. I'm going to give you one other example. You can promote in your club how people are succeeding outside of the club. And one of the things we do in my club is every week we want to encourage people to speak outside of the club. So every week at the beginning of the meeting, we ask for anyone who spoke outside of the club to come up and talk for 30 seconds about what they did. And they just say, I spoke at this location to this many people and for this period of time. And we reward the people who spoke outside of the club in the club, because that's what we want to encourage people to do. So you can talk about people, who ran a meeting, who spoke or whatever, and reward that in your club, and it becomes part of your club culture.
Interesting. Next question from Pablo. How do you deal with the extra meetings in different environments, such as bar-based meetups or wine and cheese event? Did you need to change the structure significantly, adapt to different demographic, or otherwise change your approach to the meeting?
Well, a lot of times they weren't the same meeting at all, but quite honestly, this is the beauty. You can do whatever you want. So you just create it. And it's like, we had a Wednesday night meeting, and we'd fix spaghetti and a salad at somebody's house, and we'd have 18 people come to that meeting. Well, what happened was we started it. People were coming and they were hungry. So we said, oh, let's have dinner. So then we made it a dinner meeting, and then everybody threw in like, I don't know, $3 or $4 to cover the cost for the host. So it was like a $3 dinner. Where can you get that? And then you had a Toastmasters meeting standing around in somebody's living room. Whereas my club meets in a theater. So we have this beautiful theater we meet in. Now you're meeting in a living room. It's up to you to create it. And you can create it. I know it's one of the things I recommend is create different meeting environments, create different situations, and see what works. And you mix it up, and you don't get the same way every single time. You mix it up and you learn how to make different things work, and you try new ways to do them by not doing it the same way every time. So, that's the beauty of it. Do something crazy. Just do something crazy and have some fun with it. I mean, we run a backwards meeting where we gave the best speaker and best evaluator awards out up front, and then ran it backwards. And the people gave the speech evaluations before the people gave the speeches, and they had to try to make the speeches match the speech evaluation just to have fun. Okay, and it was hysterical to do it. But the point is, you can create those extra meetings any way you want to create them, and there's not a wrong way and there's not a right way. Other than there's a fun way and a not fun way.
Okay, so last two questions quickly. The first one from D. We have a different culture here in the United Kingdom as people don't want to offend others. How can we build a culture of participation?
Okay, I guess you think in America we like offending people. Okay, I got that. I'm offended by that, by the way. Anyway, I think that's true universally. Here's the simplicity. Toastmasters is an education program. You're working on your ability to speak, your ability to lead, your ability to coordinate human activities. This isn't about convincing people to your viewpoint. So when you're in an environment, everybody's there for their personal growth based on their personal goals and purposes in their life. Now, we've had people join our Toastmasters Club because they wanted to push a certain social agenda or political agenda, and they want to try to convince everybody in the club that they were right and the people in the club were wrong. What we do is when we evaluate them, we tell them, you could say it better this way. If you're going to go out and talk about this issue, I think this would be a better way to approach it. And then also we talk to them privately and say, this isn't about convincing people in the club to your viewpoint. It's about giving you the skills so you can go out in the world and talk to people about what you believe in. I talk about, my world championship. I said, being a champion in Toastmasters is not having a trophy. In the next 50 years, we're going to have 50 world champions, but there's probably going to be 10 million people that go through Toastmasters. What's important is they're able to go out in life and champion what they believe in. And this is a training ground. It's an exercise program. It's not the end product. So we always keep a fact that this is a learning environment that we have. Everybody's welcome to grow and to get through their speaking weaknesses, their leadership weaknesses, so they can do better in life. And we're here to help you improve on your goals and purposes. And I really keep it to what your goals and purposes. I don't know, maybe we have someone in our club that wants to go out and promote the Communist Party, That's totally alien to what I believe in life, but I want to help them say it as good as they can because I don't want them to create a war in the process, I hope that answers your question. But keep it a learning environment. Good.
The final question is from Liang T. Lee. How about a situation happen when a committee member, and not just a member, is basically not engaged? So they take the role, but they don't deliver and don't do the job. So non-performing committee members.
It happens all the time. You have two choices. You either get them doing the job or you have to replace them. And with that, that has to do, first of all, when you take the role on in January, or excuse me, in July usually, it's really important on your leadership side that you get people understanding what they need to do, putting your plan together, and get them functioning very early. Because what happens is if they wait, then it starts to accumulate and they start to feel bad personally because they're not contributing. For me, it's like the president's role to go meet with them personally, give them a big hug, tell them you love them, say, we want you to do well with this. Let's see what's going on, and let's actually get them winning with that role. The amount of communication necessary to run any organization, including a Toastmasters club, is grossly underestimated. And what I learned as president, it wasn't emails. And actually, when I was president the first time, we didn't have email. It didn't exist. I had to call people on the phone. I had to go meet with them and have coffee with them. And if I have an underperforming officer who's not doing their job, I'm going to meet them for coffee. We're going to sit down talking. I'm not going to beat them up. What I'm going to do is tell them how much we want them to do a great job. How can I help them? What are they hung up on? You don't know. Maybe their child, they just found out their child's got some terminal illness, or they just got fired from their job, or they got promoted and they have a bunch more problems at work now. Find out what's going on with the person. But say you took this role on, we want to make sure that you get the benefit of doing the role and that you win during the role, and the club wins because you're in the role, and we're excited to have you in the role. Let's see what we can do to actually make this work for you. But that's one of those things you got to figure it out. Because it happens all the time. But when I figured it out in Toastmasters, the beauty of it was I started to apply that in other areas of my life as well. And I got the confidence to handle people because I figured out how to handle them in Toastmasters. And that meant that a lot of times I didn't handle them correctly in Toastmasters. And we still hugged each other and gave each other an evaluation and met the next week.
Well, that was a very interesting and enlightening webinar by Lance Miller. There's a lot of stuff to take away there for myself and a lot of people there. I'd like to address Lance, thank you very much for doing this webinar for us. We will be putting the recording on the District 91 YouTube channel, which is there. You can subscribe. There's the link, the recording of previous webinars as well. The marketing flyers is something that came up very often during this webinar. I'm pleased to say that at the UK level, we do have some templates for UK level marketing flyers, and each club can download these and get them printed by any printing company. And we also do have a template for club business card as well. And I'm hoping that in the next few days, we will formally have a partnership with a printing company for these. Following Lance's suggestion, I think that 6x4 cards will also be created, which means A6 in our format.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. We do have some more webinars coming up in the next few weeks. The next one in the fortnight will be with Barry O'Connell on membership retention to explore something called the ROW method, which sounds quite interesting. I'm told this is an acronym, and it's all about making your club ROW to the next level. So do come along. This should be really interesting. And last but not least, just before we break for Christmas, we will have a webinar on Easy Speak, which will be presented by Kit Barrett, which is one of the administrators of the system. Easy Speak is a really powerful software that a lot of people or clubs use in our district, but don't necessarily always use the maximum of its possibilities. So do come along, do sign up. Once again, many thanks to Lance for this webinar. Many thanks to you guys for coming on a Sunday night when you could be having dinner or cuddling your partner on the sofa or doing something similar. So really, really thanks for coming along. It's been a great evening. Thanks to you, Lance. Enjoy your day in LA, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye-bye now.